Welcome to the prayer room and the boardroom. How are you doing? We just had some audio difficulties, so I'm glad we're back up and running. How are you doing today, Prophet?
I am doing well, brother. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I love that suit on you.
Thank you, brother. Likewise, I would say the same.
Thank you, thank you. So a lot has gone on in the last week or so, in the New York world at least, with the Knicks winning in the US and around the world with the World Cup. There are so many lessons I think we can take from this. No one, very few people expected the Knicks to win, maybe other than the most rabid Knicks fans. Almost no one expected the Knicks to win. Some people predicted them to get into the finals. But it's interesting, right? Because I had shared something a few weeks ago where a lot of people were, when Jalen Brunson, the Knicks star point guard, was signed to the Knicks, they were like, what kind of signing is this? This is not somebody who can lead us to championship. And almost everyone was saying negative things about the max player signing of Jalen Brunson. And here we are, a few days removed from the Knicks winning its first championship in 53 years, with Jalen Brunson scoring 45 points in the closing game, which hasn't been done since Michael Jordan. I think there's so much to learn from that, from a leadership perspective, from doing work behind the scenes perspective, from not letting other people determine your value perspective. As somebody who used to be a Knicks fan, I don't know if you'll still say you are a Knicks fan, used to be been through the heartbreaks, been through the ups and downs. Um, what would you say about just what has happened with the Knicks championship, lessons we can possibly learn from it, and how you're feeling about it?
Wow. Well, first and foremost, I'll say congratulations. I'm excited and happy for New York. I'm happy for family members and friends that have remained Knicks fans all of these years. I mean, goodness gracious, God bless you. You've been hanging out with them for. I stopped being a diehard fan back at. I was telling someone. I think I might have been telling you back in the days of John Starks. It was like they were going to in the playoffs. We were around teenagers, and not even teenagers. In CC, this is what happens. Things happen at pivotal points in your life, and it's actually the amygdala hijack. And it happens at a pivotal point, and then now you're left with that unless you interrupt the pattern. So I just remember it could be accurate or not. The Knicks consistently going into the playoffs and losing. It was often to the Indiana Pacers and Reggie Miller. I remember buzzer beaters. I remember John Starks. My youthful memory is hazy. So I stopped being a Knicks fan back then, and then I was a collegiate athlete. And I'm gonna say it funnily, but they say that sports are the opiate for the masses. And I saw the way, and this is a whole nother conversation, the way we treat athletes and the way we treat really athletes, right, as special and other than, and they are for their athletic ability. But as being an athlete once upon a time, I saw the concessions and the different things. The world gets crazy and loses itself over celebrity, over status, over money, over power. And so I kind of disengaged from that world. I know this is a long soliloquy. So I was fighting it, brother, as you know. I was fighting, okay, are they going to do well this year? Are they going to do well this year? And by God's grace, they made it to the finals. And then there was one game they were down about 20. And this is one of the lessons that we could take, and I'll pass it to you. I want to hear it from you. But they were consistently down and consistently kept fighting back. I was greatly impressed with that. um, One game we were texting, and I think they got down as much as 20, maybe even 20 something, 30 points, and they came back. They were resilient. And so I
Mm.
really admired that. So I would not go so far as to say I'm a fan right now. I was in middle school. I used to wear Knicks hat like every day. So I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. But yeah, what would you say? How is all of this? for you? What are you getting from this? How are you feeling? Are you a fan? Where are you in all of this?
I couldn't let I'm happy. I'm very happy for the Knicks. I'm very happy for New York. I'm very happy for the specific Knicks team and the management, everybody who put this together. Um, you can see that James Dolan, the owner of MSG and the Knicks, he really wanted this to happen. You can see the management was doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and they've been tinkering, putting things together, and it's quite remarkable what happened and what was accomplished. Because in many ways, it's interesting. Before somebody wins something,
Mhm.
especially if they do it a different way, there's always this saying that this is the prototype to winning, and you have to do it in this type of mold to make it happen until the new champion comes in. And then if that happens once or twice, then that's the prototype. So nobody would have predicted a team built on two stars that after a while people looked at as one not being particularly being seen as a star, which was Jalen Brunson, and then Carl Anthony Towns, who was traded by the team that drafted him first, which is unusual. And so that team saying, hey, we can't win with you. And the Knicks saying, taking the pieces other people were saying they couldn't win with and saying, you know what, this is what's going to form the team. Then going to Josh Hart, going to the whole Villanova or almost the whole Villanova squad and building that team together. And it just reminded me of, so there's things, Harvard and other business schools, they do these things called case studies, and it's sometimes, and they do this so people, CEOs, executives, leaders can look back and see, okay, what was the formula for success? But sometimes some case studies stand out where you wouldn't have predicted that formula. So, for example, Coca Cola is the number one soda brand, right? Across the world, the number one soda brand. And so if you're thinking that, hey, I want to create a soda brand that's going to beat Coca Cola, you may think, oh, Pepsi's the one, right? Or something that's going to dislodge uh, something Sprite, something similar, right? The brand that came in, and I won't say dislodge, but you would not have Red Bull, this little nasty caffeinated drink, but that was the thing that created a huge new market, and that wouldn't be the perceived formula for success if you're looking at and you're planning it out. So this is, to me, one of the really interesting things about it is oftentimes when we're doing work and we're looking up at models of other CEOs, other leaders, etc., we're thinking we have to build this thing like them. This is the only way it can be successful. And don't get me wrong, maybe 75% away, that's, but sometimes you have to do something so dramatically different. All the experts are going to say you're crazy because that's what happened with the Knicks. All the experts said they're crazy. And that actually sometimes is the key to success. So don't forget to experiment. Don't forget to keep on working. There's so much more, but I don't want to get into a soliloquy as well. Uh,
You're on
what would you
something
say?
powerful though as well, brother. In also staying humble, right? They went about their business. They didn't listen to the critics. They built it how they built it, but they also remained humble. As you were talking about the cola example, recently I heard about Richard Branson and Virgin Cola. Have you heard this case study before? Um,
I have not.
So I just saw it come up recently. Apparently, Richard Branson had Virgin Cola. He has Virgin Airlines. The way he started the airline is tremendous. But Virgin
Mm.
Cola was actually doing really well in certain European markets. They were surpassing Coca Cola. They were surpassing Pepsi. On certain stores, they had become the number one product, and they were doing this quietly. And then Richard Branson went to New York and then gathered up, if I remember accurately, Coca Cola, Pepsi Cola, and then ran a bulldog. He made a big show of it because in certain numbers, they really were beating, Virgin Cola was beating Pepsi and Coke. Subsequently, thereafter, it was himself, he was telling an interview, he was on an interview, Sir Richard Branson, and he says that he was at dinner with a woman who they were hiring for Virgin Global. This woman had previously been at Coca Cola, and she said that when he peeked his head out, basically Coca Cola chopped his head off, and they basically paid off the stores to not carry virgin cola. And so overnight, that business died. We're saying this to say there's something about the humility, bringing it all full circle, that the Knicks carried. There was a grittiness. I thought I haven't watched. I'm gonna be honest, all season. So I thought that the Knicks would be the brash, outspoken kind of swagger-filled team in San Antonio. I'm used to Tim Duncan and David Robinson. San Antonio was more spicy than the Knicks at times. The Knicks just went about their business and did what they had to do. And there's something to be commended for that humility in the face of them doing it their way, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point in terms of just the humility, the humble, and just focusing on doing the job rather than looking good at doing the job, right? Because I think that is maybe one of the secrets if somebody ever does this case, and maybe that's why because the 29-point comeback wasn't the first one they had. So why they kept on being able to come back, because they never worried too much about how it looked. They just focused on doing things right according to their plan and never giving up. And I think that's powerful. I also like to, you know me, I like to study leaders. I like to study things. So growing up, coming from the Bronx, and it's interesting, we have this beautiful uh, dual perspective between us, right? Where I grew up and I didn't have my father in my life for most of it, right? So my perspective growing up playing basketball, playing sports was, okay, having the killer instinct. You come from the hood, you single parent family, and you just go out there, and that gives you that killer will, right? That instinct. But after this, I was doing a biopsy on a few different quote unquote killers from basketball, and looking back and I was saying, okay, um, gonna put LeBron aside, but Jordan, both parents, right? And nobody can say somebody's more of a killer than Jordan. Kobe, both parents, and now Jalen Brunson, both parents. So I found that very interesting that these people who are able to perform in the coldest and hardest and most pressure filled moments, they had both their parents in their lives. And that flips the script on what does it really take to be successful at the top level and perform under pressure. And to me, that's very interesting because oftentimes in certain communities, we will glorify certain ways of being, right? Because we think there are more benefits to that, and that it can get us to the extra way. But if we start looking at it through this lens, that no, you do not have to come from the hood. Jalen Brunson's father was in the NBA. You do not have to come from the hood. You do not have to come from a broken home to be super successful and tough as nails. Because how many times during the series did somebody did he sprain his ankle? I think his knee, and he bounced back and kept on playing. So I think this is important to tease out for those who are raising people or those who are um, growing up in turn. What do we aspire to? We don't have to put ourselves through that, because that's not actually the building block to this type of success if you want that. And stats, general history, biblical traditions will show that it's better to raise a family with both parents in the home. Um, do you have any thoughts on that?
I was honestly going to leave it alone, but I completely agree with you. I think there's something to be said that Jalen Brunson's father was around, present, active, and pushing Jalen Brunson. And I also think we're in a generation where people really care. Like fathers are in the home and with their children more than ever. I wouldn't be me if I didn't take us back to the 80s and the 90s, even the crack epidemic, right? So our generation are the probably millennials most heavily impacted as youth and young people by crack. and heroin in that era. And so we saw many fatherless homes. We also saw with the invention of welfare and other things that the family was systematically separated because you could not receive certain benefits if you had a man in the home. I know many in our generation don't even know this, and younger especially. So, what we faced was a systemic separation, a drug fueled induced separation. And then we are the products of this generation. Our parents, that was their generation. We're not making anybody wrong or anyone wrong. So now what we're seeing societally is that fathers are interested in being in their sons' lives, their children's lives at varying degrees and varying levels. I don't think anybody just wants to abandon their children. Let us be clear, right? There are usually circumstances that lead to this construct taking place. On the aggregate, on the whole, I think the father being in the child's life is super important, even if both parents are together. Personally, I would say that's the ideal. But if it's not a possibility, if both parents, for the sake of the child, can be in the child's life as much as possible, I think it's ideal. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, he's very controversial. He has a way that he thinks about picking players. Have you heard this, brother?
Is it the ankles
The
or something
ankles,
else?
it's also by what kind of household they come from.
Hmm.
So he
Hmm.
says he wants his defensive linemen who are looking to sack the quarterback, who are hungry and ferocious and tenacious. He wants them to come from single parent households because they're fighting for their lives. And it watch this. He says he wants his offensive linemen to come from two parent households and his quarterbacks to come from two parent households. I could be getting this wrong, but I'm probably not. But it's because of how they listen differently, how they take direction and coaching differently, and the posture and the mindset that they have pervasively. And so he observes that athletes that come from two parent households are more coachable. Um, and I'm going to take it off of him that there's a distinction. As I think about football, between an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, even in terms of what's needed in terms of that steadiness. And now I'm gonna get in trouble. I would venture to say, and I'm gonna get in trouble here, but like I think about a J.R. Smith and the type of things that he used to do during pressure moments in NBA finals. See, I'm gonna get myself in trouble, but why not? It's good. Sometimes you got to be a little controversial. Was it De'Aaron Fox on the Spurs? I'd be interested to know what kind of household he comes from. But if we're going with Coach Prime's premise of double parent household offensive players, there's something about the cool that they keep at the end of the day that when you look at those moments at the end that Jalen Brunson got into, he was able, there was a calmness, there was a collectiveness that he was able to move with that kept everything steady even as they were behind. And that's what you want for the person that's going to be guarding and leading the. So I don't know. I'm just talking, but what are you getting out of this, seeing in this?
So I had to raise my volume a bit, and also it was freezing, so I missed some. But I caught a little bit of the quote unquote controversy. I think we need to, if it works, that's brilliant by him. Um, Everybody, I think most people know if you watch Coach Prime long enough that he really cares about his players. So he's not coming at it from a exploitive way. He's really trying to get the best of for his program and his players. I think oftentimes there are certain stereotypes or analysis that work, or things before they become stereotypes or widely spread analysis, things that are true. There, there is quote unquote the Napoleon complex with some people. It's not all people who are short, but there is the Napoleon complex with some people. So it's interesting to see that, yes, maybe somebody from a single parent household, they might be more ferocious on defense, where they want to hit, they're going to get after it, they're trying to grab, they're trying to attain something. Where uh, offense, They have to run the plays. They have to get up and forget if they drop the ball, things like that. If they're more coachable, uh, more strategic, and I don't mean defensive plays can't be strategic, but let me step into controversy a little bit. IQs, ability to perform, it correlates with what is going on in the households, people's aptitude. Why? When you are in difference in a household with two parents or in a household with parents who have a higher vocabulary, that's going to impact the child's vocabulary from an early age because you're using more words with them, right? You're reading more to them. There's less stress, maybe because there's dual incomes or at least one parent's home. There's less stress in the household, which allows sometimes the brain to perform better. There might be more nutrition, things of that nature. There's a reason why we're taller than they were in the 1800s or 1700s. We're better fed, things of that nature. So there are some correlations. I'm not a medical expert, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. But as somebody who's making decisions, as somebody who wants wisdom, we can't step away from the truth or the possible truth because it's icky. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
No, absolutely, brother. You're 100% spot on. And what we're doing is we're again working in consciousness, giving ourselves, giving you the tools
Mhm.
to work with these constructs. It's you're looking at two products of single parent households, right? So right? We've defied the odds, if you will. Most of us, you watching this, you've defied the odds, right? So, what we're looking at are things that exist that as leaders we want to look at. You don't have to subscribe to it, you can disagree also. The thing is, we don't know the answer, but we're bringing it up because it's something to look at. It's something that people are looking at. And even as we think, and I don't want to get too deep, but we have to be intelligent about these conversations as leaders because we're looking at a nation that's bringing forth the far right with people who are into eugenics, if you will, right? They're into these different kinds of ideas around superiority and supremacy. And so we need to be able to engage. We started with the Knicks, this boardroom and prayer room. We're hanging out, but it's deep. So that's what we're looking at, and just do your research, do your homework. um,
Yeah. And I would say, if you agree or disagree, let us know in the comments. We'd love to know your thoughts on this. But you have a phenomenal point about being careful with what we talk about, especially regarding eugenics, because oftentimes they with eugenics, and this is why I think it's so critical that we're allowed to speak our mind and be free a bit, not be too worried about backlash to a certain point, because if we're not allowed to do that, we can't truly be critical thinkers. And one of the issues which was happening when eugenics was being pushed is they kept on giving out bad data. They say it was the shape of the African's brain or whatnot, the shape of the head. They would also say, I think it was the chest and diaphragm, they was doing something on that as well. So people in power or people who are pushing for power sometimes may propose a silly argument to reinforce why they're better or their way of doing is better. And if you're not thinking critically and allowing yourself to think critically and think outside the box and not go with just the main thing to try to find a solution, you may just go along or allow them to build enough steam where they're pushing this and propagating nonsense out, and therefore it's pushing down communities.
yeah, yeah, and brother, you're so on it because they might not mention the word eugenics in itself, but these thought processes are what's driving a lot of Gen Z culture and what's driving a lot of online culture as well. And even as we look at what happened with the last presidential election and a lot of the youth vote and a lot of um, I call it the bro vote, right? Went to President Trump behind a lot of these kinds of talking points that are influenced by these histories. But if you don't know that these histories exist or where things are coming from, then you're just subject to the culture. So right now, we're not giving you anything one way or the other. We're obviously against eugenics. We're against the idea that certain people are more superior than others because of genotype and phenotype. What they did was they tried to say and tried to really justify for their own conscience, because of what they were doing to us in Africa. They tried to say that we as Africans were inferior, and the way they tried to justify that was by saying, as Achiburo was saying, uh, measuring the skull and saying if someone had a particular skull shape that they were less intelligent, or torso height and weight. They did all sorts of experiments, all sorts of things to build a case on bad data. And so now this, and then we go into now, um, the Congo, and what I believe it was Cecil Rhodes did in the Congo. Uh, and then we go into Hitler and Nazi Germany, where a lot of their work was around this, trying to prove why the white race was superior in their minds, right? And trying to make this case. And so now we're in a 2026 version of it with looks maxing and other movements that are taking place. Uh, I don't know how we got here or why we're here, but someone is going to be blessed by. If you're a young person, do your research, do your homework. If you're an older person, educate the younger, speak up, just get out there. But also, um, for the boardroom and the prayer room perspective, these are the issues of the future. The past is again the future, and we're having these conversations all over again. Over to you, brother.
Yeah. Um, Man, there's so much further we can dive deep into this. But if you want us to continue this, let us know, and perhaps we'll pick it up on another day or time frame. Uh, we're going to release episode 2 with Mama Cheney. I know we had a lot of people saying they love that episode. So we'll be releasing that shortly. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and please share these videos with somebody who will find it valuable. Now we have coming up more things, as you said, the opiates for the masses. So now we're in the World Cup stage, right? Interesting things have been going on. One of the things that happened, when I say interesting, I use interesting very broadly, but one of the things that happened has been visa denials for people coming in. The referee from Ethiopia, I believe it was Somalia, he was denied a US visa. So he's not able to be a referee from the tournament. And that has people up in arms. There is and people really focusing on the US visa issue. But then there was also African player, I forget from what country he's facing some charge in England. And he was denied a visa into Canada to play. So it's really interesting with some of these games. So the World Cup, soccer, the Olympics, some of these things are opiates of the masses, but they're also diplomatic ties and things that bring some communities together. So with that as leaders, what do we really think, and how do we really consider uh, whether it's right or not for a country to open its borders, close its borders? Uh, what is what is sovereign? What's being sovereign? What options should they have? How would you process some of these things? Because I know a lot of people up in arms. For example, we're at war right now with Iran. And so Iran is interesting because Iran's in a tournament, and Iran supposedly they have to fly in either a day or two beforehand. And supposedly, allegedly, I didn't dig into. They said they were told they have to fly out the same night after their game, so they're not even allowed to stay in the U.S. And all their games, I believe, are in the U.S. And so clearly, the countries are at war. The U.S. hasn't allowed some of their sporting directors or people inside. And I'll say this so it's not just tilted one way, because I like to be balanced. I like to It is known, well, let me not say, it's perceived that countries, spy organizations, they'll use whatever resources available to them. So let's say they have ambassadors or what you call it, a consulate in another country. They will pass some people through the diplomatic channels to get into that with less security concerns and things of that nature. So I can see possibly how that will be attached to certain a sporting team, and that's available as well. So I do want to highlight that also. But maybe I'm going way too far in the deep end, and we didn't talk about almost any of this beforehand. So please let me know if I should just continue on this on my own. But as a country, as somebody who's thinking about building cities, what's the balance between sovereignty and controlling your own borders and letting people in versus being um, quote unquote open and accepting whoever wants to come in?
Mhm.
That's heavy. I'm sorry. I didn't
You
plan
know,
that question.
it really is. It really is. But what I love about God and the Bible is that when you know the principles in the heart of God, these situations maybe become a little bit easier. This is why understanding theology, yes, and also the heart and mind and spirit of God, having it is important. So what came to me was do unto others the way you would want them to do unto you. The love principle and the love question. There's a place in scripture, it says, when I was hungry, you fed me, and when I was naked, you clothed me. And it says, when did you do this? It says, when you did it to the least of these. God, Jesus. I think about the story of the Good Samaritan, where the person's on the road. It's a dangerous road. They have to travel and get from one place to another. They're robbed and they go through it, and the people just pass them by. They walk past them. And then there was a Samaritan, someone who was frowned upon and someone who was othered, that came to their rescue. Ah, God, Jesus. So
Yeah,
when I
that's brilliant.
go, yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
What's
that's quite brilliant because do unto others as you do to yourself. It doesn't mean you don't have hard borders. It just means they're fair or they're generous and saying, okay, this is what I'll give, even if it was myself. And wow, that's brilliant.
right? I think about, to your point, the situation that happened with the Haitians that had to sit under the bridge for so long, right? In droves and numbers, while other people and other races were led. And I think about the fact that, and I could be wrong with the data and statistics, but the majority of people that have received asylum are white South Africans. I love everybody. I love this country enough to say something, because, frankly, what I have been seeing with the World Cup, to lighten it up, is how the Europeans and others, when they come to the country, how awesome they realize the country is. Have you all seen this? They're going into Bucky's, gas stations, and Walmarts and CVS's. They're trying Chick-fil-A for the first time. And even we're doing it now, right? I'm lightening it up to keep it out of getting controversial, because I don't want to lose you. But so I love America. I love this country. As we travel, brother Liz, I love to get home. I'm gonna be honest with you. I love being abroad, but I love to get home. But is it fair? Is it righteous? Is it just? Whatever that means and whatever that is. And I just think what we're doing right now is not that. It's not.
Mm,
The last
mm,
thing I'll say, from a humorful place, and I know it gets tense and it gets tight. Um, but I think this it's good. We're defining ourselves, brother. Um, I don't want to say that because that's going to be too controversial, but it's probably a good thing. So there's this. I wish one day we could get, um, like, they could plug in the memes, right? Because there's this song, I don't know if you've seen it. It's these Cubans, and the song is "I Will Vote." It's a very catchy song for Donald Trump. I will vote for Donald Trump. And the people that did that song got deported. I'm not mad at people that voted for the president, and I honor the president because he's the president. You gotta honor. The Bible says, "Give honor to whom honor is due." I'm not mad, and also, this is gonna sound crazy, but God is using him for certain things. Sometimes there
True.
has to be a breakdown before there's a breakthrough. Right? I do think
I
he's a Nebuchadnezzar type king, but I'll leave that. So the thing that I'll leave with you, brother, is the person. It is deep, something to consider. The guy said, if we had these policies and this president, I wouldn't be here now. It might have been Patrick Bet David. This him and Mehdi Amin we might be talking. I might get the other guy's name wrong. And he was like, you got to think about it. Would I be here right now with these policies in place?
yeah.
I might have said too much. Over to you, brother.
Yeah, that's very interesting because people will often put themselves in part of the group that's already in and not think about it from the outside and whether it's right. I don't even want to say fair. I'll just say right, and how they're processing it. And I do agree. I think God uses every um, king, president, prime minister, etc. And sometimes he allows certain things. So I always find it interesting when somebody is saying that God chose this president, and therefore, and I want to take away from President Donald Trump, anyone, any one of the last 40 plus presidents in the US, God chose this president. God has chosen he's let every president go and come in and whatnot. And um, I just want to hark on that a little bit because some people, this goes back to thinking critically, right? And something I want to say sometimes people ride a cultural wave or cultural phenomena or cultural uh, frame of thought and they don't evaluate it. They think it's new or because it's representative of this culture that it's better without actually analyzing it as if it's not their own thing and analyzing it deeply. And with that, I say, just think critically. Like one of the beautiful things is we're not in the Stone Ages anymore. There's pretty high literacy rates. Go to learn. First, start with the Bible. Read the Bible yourself. Don't depend on your priest, pastor, whoever. Don't depend. Read the book yourself. Learn the principles. You might not get it all right. You still may need support and help, and you probably do need support and help. I need support and help. Um, but no, start understanding the thing for yourself, right? Don't just depend on what somebody's interpreting it, because that's how you get caught up in these waves. And people sometimes will deify certain entities, right? So that happened with President Trump for some people. That happened with President Obama for some people, and they'll deify. They're humans.
They're humans. I have a relative that says Jesus is not on the ballot. Vote your conscience, baby. And
Mhm.
listen, we're not on a Democratic Party train, a Kamala Harris train. I have a picture with Vice Presidential candidate Senator Kamala Harris. I honor her. I appreciate her. This isn't even a pitching of that. This is a thing critical because we don't agree with everything that the Democratic Party does. Also, then you have Butch Ware and Jill Stein, independent. We're just coaching the being awareness of it all. We're
Mhm.
coaching the being criticalness of all of
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
and not going hook, line, and sinker any one way.
Yeah.
Because we are the people that have to have influence in these places and spaces.
Yeah. And be careful who you deify because your children may also deify these people as well. So it's sometimes we have idols, and it may be sports players, it may be politicians, it may be pastors. People are people, right? And don't let somebody, especially if they come in the name of Christ, their actions pull you away from Christ. People are people.
People are people,
Um, and
and
I don't know
and
how I got there, but I did want to
y-
share that.
You prophetic, you're in the vein. People are people, and you set it up for me to say many people will use God for their own agendas and purposes. And that's why the scripture says in the last days there will be many wolves in sheep's clothing. And it says in another place that even the very elect would be deceived. Right. So we have to be mindful in this day and age. You're 100% correct.
Yeah, yeah.
There was something else I was going to share, but we're going very deep down this vein right now. So uh, I'll bring us out a little bit. How are you finding the balance of it all? Right, we have to lead people, interact with people, have a responsibility for people with all kinds of different perspectives, all kinds of different interests, right? So, what would you suggest? What would you coach the leader, the entrepreneur? We have our opinion, you have your opinion, but you have to lead people and spaces. And so, how are you navigating leadership in spaces? And what would you share with leaders in this season?
Um, First, do what you can when you can. Um, do what you can when you can. And I say this by God's grace, every step in my life has made it easier to get here, easier or harder to be here. So, what do I mean? I understand because of the point in life where I was pushing and reading a ton of books, I understand a ton of different frameworks and principles in order to solve different types of problems from leadership. I understand that in certain companies, you have to talk, or when you're founding, it's a very rough, it may not be easy go lucky. It's that, and I understand that's the reality of business. But I also understand in bureaucracies, as companies grow and bureaucracies pop, you also have to watch out for that and not let systems fo- grow in ways that prevents ingenuity, that prevents feedback loops, that just becomes very political. Um, I also learned that books or theory and practice do not always go hand in hand. I might even say they're below a 50% margin on this. So being practicing and constantly learning and going and growing is part of it. And seeing the mistakes I made. There's sometimes where as a leader, it's usually one of the things people look, you always have a direction, you're even keel, but you're even keel and you always have a direction. I remember one of the biggest lessons, and this is not something I learned in a leadership book. It was one time something bad happened in the company. This may be 3 years ago. Something bad happened. I forget exactly, but it was terrible. And I just sat down with the team and I said, look, I don't know what to do. I don't know how we're going to get out of it. This hurts. This is tough, but we're going to fight through. And I shared a vulnerable moment from the past. I said, look, my trust is in God. I've been through hard things that's made me cry that I didn't know the way forward. We're going to fight through. And by God's grace, that's exactly what the team needed to hear. I didn't plan it. I didn't know that's what the team needed. I just was honest. And in leadership, it's not always about being honest. Like when I say honest, it's not always about being 100% transparent, right? That's not what you're always supposed to do. But knowing that, saying, "Oh wow, I didn't know this is a type of thing that would work." So now I know maybe in another scenario, I don't have to figure it out. I can say, "Okay, is this a time to truly just share?" And say, "Hey, I don't know. Let's band together. Let's figure it out." But I point that out. A lot of that work that was done in the past enables me to quote unquote balance now because I don't have to do a lot of that learning now. So I'm still learning a lot. As people will share, I'm still learning to be softer. I'm way softer than I used to be in the past. Way, way softer. But I'm still learning to be softer for certain things because as you scale, it's and you're scaling, it's you manage things differently. Because this larger groups, people may not know you as well. Things like that. So I'm learning that. I'm also seeing, okay, one of the principles that I learned, and I'll share this. The world doesn't like truth. I'm realizing, and this is people really don't like truth. And I thought because I love this so much, I just thought, yeah, people actually want the truth. They want no, people don't want truth. They want fantasy. They want to believe whatever they want, and so that's one of the things I'm trying to mod my world to now and figure out how do I interact in this world where people say they want truth, but really, I'll say I don't want to go too high, but 80% of people don't really want the truth. Don't really want the truth, and I don't, and that may be lower. So there's different framework things that I'm learning now that I'm trying to apply. So I'm still learning and still, but I don't have to learn all the other stuff I have to care. There's still a ton I have to learn, but because of all that other stuff I experienced, I found what works and what doesn't work. Um, Long story short, the balance or whatnot comes from doing as much work as you can in the season you're supposed to do that work. So when the next season comes and there's a different type of work to do, you don't have to do double, triple, quadruple because you did the work in the season you're supposed to do the work.
Mhm. Wow. You probably covered maybe two, three, or four proverbs in that time as you were sharing. We haven't discussed this piece about truth. It's interesting. I agree with you. Uh, Prophetically, I can tell you, people don't want the truth. There's a saying that too much light too soon can be blinding. Um, they shall know the truth, and the truth shall make them free. What I've discovered, and maybe this is wisdom or not, is you can bring people to a certain level, but they have to come to realization of it themselves. People will often resent you. That's what they did with Jesus. They resented Jesus for bringing forth, I am the way, the truth, and the light. It was those that received the truth by revelation of themselves. This is why Jesus asked the question, who do men say that I am? And then the
Mhm.
revelation comes forward, you are the Christ. It was by a revelation of the person through not Jesus's explicit teaching. And so what I found is that we can almost bring people to a certain place, but that truth must be grasped for themselves. They have to get it for themselves. And this is also why the scripture talks about the Holy Spirit being the teacher. In this dispensation, to your point about reading the scriptures, search the scriptures for yourself. And then there gets to a level, it says, but how would I know unless someone else helped me? This is when the Ethiopian eunuch,
Mhm.
and so that in that whole situation, but it also says to study to show thyself approved. When that word is in you, the Holy Spirit is in you, all truth will rise up in you. So you're right, brother. We live in a very delusional society, which is why the opiate for the masses is sports and all of the extras. And when we talk about nonsense, the views go up, but when we're serious, the views will go down. This is across the board, not just right. This is the culture. This is the society. This is the world as it is. And so we're doing our best to present hallelujah. That maybe it's we all we can do is present truth and people have to take it on for themselves. Even feedback. This generation's different. You got to give them feedback differently. It's amazing. But uh, God is in all the midst of it all. I don't know what would you say about that, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, you're spot on. People, people say they. Oh man, how deep do we want to go down this? Um, so I often see that people ignore facts, ignore truths, base things on emotions, or base things on being comfortable. And sometimes, I don't want to say the wealthiest people, but they figured out how do we appeal to somebody's comfort rather than somebody's purpose. And do certain people truly want certain things? Do you really want to get a better job? Are you really willing to go to school, do the work, study hard, not play around or whatnot? Are you really willing to do that? Are you willing to make? We just got off a call with one of our programs, and we told them, and you told them, they need to make at least 10 calls every day to call up potential job opportunities. How many people are really going to do that? All right. How many people? And 10 is not many. 10 is not. You gave them a script. They can come without backing, say, hey, I just did this, this, this. I'm ready for this program. How many people are actually going to do the work? But they'll say, hey, we're in this program, so that's enough. It's not. That's the truth. It's not enough. That's why weight loss pills and fad diets have been the things for the last 50 plus years, right? We're looking for let's lose weight fast and quickly. It's supposed to be easy, right? Some of the courses that sell the easiest online is, hey, you know what? You're not wrong. You just learned the wrong thing. This is the quick way to get rich, right? And that's the premise of the framework. But at what point is this somebody else's fault? Like the truth is, it's our fault. It's our fault. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to believe that if you're not, with very few exceptions, in the Western world, there are, in America in particular, I won't say the Western, in America in particular, in the last 20 somewhat years, uh, the vast majority of people are responsible for where they are in life. And that is a hard pill to swallow. And that's not something popular to say online. And don't get me wrong, I know systematic racism. I know under resource schools. I know all of that, but I also know there's a ton of resources that are available. I know that we just came back from Kenya where kids were begging for things they call them rubbers, erasers. They got excited for erasers. These kids like excited, j- running around begging to have erasers, pencils, things that made. So when I say this from the standpoint of I don't think we understand how much we have. There's issues. But I don't think we understand how much we have compared to the rest of the world. And often other places, there's so much bribery. Don't get there's bribery going on here too. It's different, but it is here too. But just to get to certain places, there's so many roadblocks, impediment on the local ground floor, right? In the U.S., you can rise to a certain point through the regular channels. Maybe this class, you can do that. So you know, let me remember most people don't actually want the truth. So you see there, I was
It's powerful though what you're saying from a ministerial perspective and for how I was raised. We're not blaming the individual for what's pervasive, right? We recognize what we're saying is what I hear you saying is we do acknowledge and recognize that there are systemic issues that are taking place. And even in the terms of sin, right? That there are societal sins, there are principalities and areas that impact things. And at the same time, the individual also has a responsibility. So there are some ministries that focus all on the individual and the individual. Then there are some that focus all on the communal and the community, and there has to be an appreciation that it's both. So in this context, what we're saying is, as an individual, you're here with us now because you're called to something more. You're doing something more. Um, as we look at it, 20 years ago was 2006. Cellular phones were around. I think I'm going to agree with you that if you're under a certain age and you have access to a smartphone and you live in the United States of America, you have considerably more opportunity. You're in the top 1% in the world of opportunity. And what I'm impressed with is that what we're doing is providing the resources, providing the information, providing the skill sets so that there's no longer an excuse. There's no longer a dearth. One of the reasons Uplift Community exists is to provide the opportunities and the resources that we didn't have when we were growing up.
Yeah, and I'll even jump in. Sorry, Prophet. I'll even jump in on that. Like we created uplift communities because we want to give high impact, high quality resources and training to communities that couldn't afford it, right? Because you can the people we want to help unfortunately do not have the budget to pay for us to come in and spend as much time. But we try to figure out a way and we partner with government and we partner with organizations to bring these services at scale at the quality that we believe in, nothing less. So, and I say this, we're not the only program that does this, right? There's few and far between. I'll say that. There are few and far between, but we're not the only program that does this. Sorry, there's another point I wanted to bring up, but I cut you off, Prophet.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I'll say, not to get, this is where I'll go off on the limb. I'll say this, the truth, and I'll put you in a little bit of warm water. The truth, some churches don't want to hear the truth either, in terms of ministry shouldn't be done the same way. And that you have to do more than quote unquote spiritually feeding the people. Train them how to get jobs, train them how to build businesses, train them how to manage their finances, train them how to manage their emotions, right? And they may locked in, no, I'm doing this and this is all God wants us to do. Are we really looking at that? Is that true? Right?
Man, listen, I don't mind. We are in a time where any church, any ministry, any religious institution, even going to our Muslim brothers and sisters, um, like the church, the facility has to be like a third space, and that's what it used to be for the Black church, right? It used to be a third space. It's no longer that where people are communing and congregating, and people are coming in Sundays, Wednesdays, Fridays for spiritual activities, and that's good, but there's so much more of a need. And this is why we saw during Black Lives Matter and other movements the church was left out and left behind because it was not addressing the holistic needs of people. They were dealing with pie in the sky. They were dealing with this. We got to clean it up another week. We got to get the people back, brother. But this is real talk. We deal with the pie in the sky,
Mhm.
and
And
not with what's happening here on earth. And so,
mhm,
I know authority. I'm a sixth generation minister. I love the church, by the way, and everything I say. Let me tell you this: I love the church. I love the church's people. I love God's people. I'm not ragging on. There's all love in my heart, but we just have to do things differently if we're going to service people as the world changes.
mhm. Yeah, we do. And I want to say this too. It's not all, don't look at the church as just the pastor, the priest, the prophet, etc. Right? When you bring your skills into the church, I'm not, there was a biblical thing I was going to reach to, but I'm not going to go that far. Bring your skills, volunteer to do this. And I speak as somebody who did it myself, right? I was asked to lead, preside over one ministry. And then later on, I asked him if I can create another one about business because business is my passion. And he said, sure, go ahead. I didn't ask for any resources other than, hey, give me a space. Even before we went over to a coffee shop to start off. And then after they saw it, they said, hey, come in here for some of this. So just go and serve. Just go and make your church into what you want to see, right? Or I won't go that far. Or maybe you go to and you're serving at another church because maybe your church isn't ready for that, right? And another church say, "Hey, I need help doing this," and going to do that. So that's something to think about. That's something to process. Don't just we're not complainers. So we're pointing out things that we're actively trying to solve and fix ourselves. We just want to enroll you in doing the work
Yeah, yeah,
as well. So we're saying this. We Prophet just put together a beautiful 14-day mission strips, and we're doing our recap and sharing on Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to join, maybe we'll share the link in the Zoom, and you can hear more about this and what went on. And so we're not talking about this because we're agitating. We're not actually doing anything. Prophet did this with his own funds by God's grace, right? That's sorry for sharing that, but so it's we say this because we want you to start thinking. No, a lot of people want to solve a problem with somebody else's money or somebody else's skills. Start with your own skills, right? Especially if you're solving in Christ. Tell you so many compliments I've gotten for the business conference. That was all God. That was all God, all God. And how He brought it together, how He put the people together, how He structured that. That was all God. So, especially as Christians, don't think you have to get everything from somebody else. Don't think you can't be enough. What if David looked and said, "Why don't you?" He did say, "Why don't you go fight him?" He said, "Why are you shaking?" And then when he said, "You know, I'll do it myself." So it wasn't, "Hey, so you guys go into battle." He said, "You know what? I'll do it. I'm not saying it because you should do it. I won't do it. I'll do it because I believe in the God who I serve."
Yes,
Thank you,
man.
Prophet.
That's deep. That is so good, brother. We are the church. We the people, the ecclesia, the ecclesia is the word for the church, the called ones, the sent ones. So any Ooh, brother, from what you're saying, there's a quote: "You cannot heal what you cannot feel." That thing that makes you mad, that thing that frustrates you, that thing more often than not is the thing that you're supposed to be fixing, working with. Your purpose, listener, is probably wrapped up in that thing that makes you upset. That
Hmm.
problem in the
Hmm.
business conference, brother, did a tremendous job in your presentation, and you were coaching them through a business plan. By the way, we'll start putting up clips of the different presentations and speeches shortly. Um, but you told them their money was in the largeness of the problem that they would solve, right? And that the larger the problem, the stronger the business. And so the problem that you face in your life, this is why God is so intentional. That success in business for you, that your happiness is actually tied to you dealing with that problem. Ah, that thing that frustrates you, your the other side of that, and your breakthrough is in you working for the healing of that issue. So what's the thing that gets you going? What's the thing that you find yourself becoming passionate about when you're speaking? What's the thing that actually annoys you enough that you say something about it? If it doesn't annoy you enough where where you don't speak on it, it's not your thing. But if it gets to you so much, that's probably your area of destiny and purpose, and where your riches most likely are.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, you're spot on. And I want to just put a nice little point on it. Getting you upset means you're doing something about it, not you marshaling other people, unless God's called you to be a leader to do something about it. And I think, and I could be wrong because this is just an inkling of an idea that popped in my mind. Um, the grumpy activists or politicians or whatnot, they are because they're not actually solving the problem. They're highlighting the problem, they're magnifying the problem, but they're not actually solving the problem. So focus on trying to solve, even if it's a small piece. Focus on trying to solve the problem rather than only being the agitator. And agitators, that may be some people's purpose. But if you're always to some extent just agitated and not actually feeling fulfilled time by time, then are you really doing the fullness of what God has called you to? Or are you doing what's comfortable, right?
Mm,
What everybody else has done? Have you doing what's because there's a lot of people who will see now I have to because I have to think about what to say here. because not just people don't want to hear the problem or the truth, some people will kill if certain people expose the truth. So there are there's also the industry of trying to keep the truth hidden, right, or not awake the masses, right? Um, so I'm counterbalancing my head. Do you guys really want this, and is it worth that risk? What I'll say on that note, don't get caught up in just activism. Get caught up in results. And I probably said too much. I just felt that in my spirit. Get caught up in results. Is something actually changing?
But you said
Yeah.
something that was really powerful in that space because the agitator is needed, right? Every role is needed, right? Watch this. The agitator for agitation's sake is needed. Watch this. The jester for jester's sake is needed, right?
Mhm,
Even see, now we're going to get in trouble, but there's a whole theology, which I think I would agree with, that the Judas was needed because
mhm,
Judas pushed Jesus. Not let me say it like that. God used Judas to bring Jesus into the ultimate place. Like if Judas didn't portray Jesus, then we would not have had the crucifixion, right?
mhm,
Something very powerful, brother, that you mentioned is, are you happy? Right? So is it your mountain to be the agitator? Right? Is it your purpose to be the agitator, or are you agitating for agitating's sake because they have attention to attach to it? We're in the generation where only the person can answer. Do you know that there are famous people who are highly unhappy because they're not in their mountain and not in their place?
You're in the spirit, brother. I was gonna go right there. Not right there, but leaders, people
Mhm,
who are in leadership and they're unhappy.
mhm. Yes. Yes. There and we might even be speaking to you as a leader. You might be unhappy now because you're in an identity that is not yours. And it's like you're at the pinnacle of success. You're at the top of this mountain and your soul is unfulfilled. This is the work of the prophet. This is the work of the minister. This is the work of the advocate, right? This is the work of those who help others. So listen, everyone has a role, everyone has a part to play. The truth is though, are you fulfilling your role? And then there's
Mhm,
the distinction of being on the court and being in the stands. When you're on the court, the conversation, well, no, let's start with this. When you're in the stands, the conversation is critical. Look what he did. He passed the ball here. You're describing what's going on. When you're on the court, you're in action. So you just pass me the ball, receiving the ball. The conversation is not critical because you're continuously in the action of moving forward. As you're speaking, what I'm hearing is that so many of us, so many people are in the stands of life and not on the court of life. So
mhm,
they're criticizing and throwing rocks and not doing anything about it. I don't know,
mhm.
right? So it's the talk, it's the
Yep.
chatter, it's the stand. I'm a fan and I'm a talker versus the person who's in the game doesn't have the time to criticize in the same way.
Mhm, mhm. No, you're
So,
right, and people be more critical and you never play the game. They're not on the court just because they did the work in the gym and the coach chose them to be on the court. You don't know what's going on with their parents, their why they made the decision. You don't know how tired they are, right? You don't know. They just made a mistake, and people be so critical, but they won't get in the game and see, oh man, this is tougher than it looks, right? Because everything looks easy from the stands, right? So, how are you doing? Are you doing this move here? Hey, why didn't they just go to this move? But what if they're playing a more important game next game and they don't want the scout to see that move so they can hit it the next game? There's levels to this. Um,
there's
and this goes back.
levels. Go ahead.
Mhm. And this goes back to your point about how to balance now. It's when you play the game, you start seeing more levels and you're learning, okay, I do this in this situation, trying to, you never played high school basketball, but you think you're going to jump into the NBA and do something, right? You learn something at college level, you learn something at the, high school level, college level, the summer league, and the pro level. So people are trying to jump experiences without getting the reps. And then to your point, where everybody's needed, right? There's a point where Jesus told Peter to get behind me, Satan, right? Because Peter was blocking Jesus from his purpose when Peter was trying to argue, no, this won't happen to you, Lord. But then he told Judas, go do what you should do, right? And treated him as a friend in that moment. So understand your purpose. Understand the purpose of people around you. Understand the purpose of your governor, your president, whatever. It may bring the best out of you.
Charles Dickens, he said it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. It was the
Mhm,
time of great hope and the time of great despair, the time of great incredulity and the time of great beliefs. What is your consciousness beholding?
mhm,
What are you called to do? Just get in that place, because also that's where your money is. Ooh.
mhm, mhm, mhm. And you guys didn't know Prophet. Wait till he starts quoting Shakespeare. You didn't see that side of Prophet yet. He gave you a little Charles Dickens. Wait till he starts quoting Shakespeare in the future.
It's
Yeah.
levels. It's levels. To your point about levels, and it's so much that could be said. I have two quick things for you. Kevin Hart was on, and he and Shaq were on a show, and Kevin Hart said one of the his big breaks was when he went on Shaq's All Star Comedy Jam. He did not
Mm,
plan to go on Shaq's All Star Comedy Jam.
mhm,
He was going to do another show, but he went on it, and he said there was one shot that he did where he said he knew that this was the moment. But what he also shared was you don't know it's the moment until afterwards. You
mhm,
prepare and you prepare. And he didn't go into that moment saying, oh, this is the moment that's going to be the moment. You don't realize it's the moment until afterwards, but it's because you're prepared that you
mhm,
do well in the moment, and then the moment opens up to you. You perform in the moment, and then the world opens up. Jalen Brunson prepared. I see the free throw video with his father, right? All the people, the greats, the case studies, there was preparation. And it says, like, where God and time and eternity meet, God's providence and eternity and the appointed time and hour meet. Golly. The question becomes, are you ready for that moment? Are your moment, your moment is coming. Number one. Number two, hear me. There are some of you, you missed the moment.
mhm,
You know you missed the moment. I hear the Spirit of the Lord saying there's another moment coming for you, because God is a God of purpose. And as you heed this word, this time you shall be prepared and you shall walk through. Hear me. Certain moments are also teaching moments. Certain failures are designed and ordained so that you can actually walk into a later victory. Somebody help me. For some of you, if you would have succeeded in that past place, you would not have walked into your greater level of victory. But because you
mhm,
failed, because you had that heartbreak, whatever it is, something was birthed on the inside of you to push you to a greater forward victory. This is why
mhm,
you never lose heart in the moment. I don't know why I'm
mhm,
preaching.
mhm. You're preaching. You're preaching.
I'm preaching. Hold on. I'm preaching. This is Lewis Pollard. I'm on live right now on a podcast, but I just wanted to pick up and say I love you, and I'll call you back. But I was just talking about how God brings us into destiny and purpose.
Mm.
And man, I love you. The Lord gave me a word for you 10 minutes ago. So call me back when you can. Amen. Will do. Will do. Thank you, brother. Yes, sir. All right. Yes, take care.
Yep.
There's something,
So
I want to pass it to you, brother, but even in that moment, I would have left it, but there was something for the listener about timing. And why would prophet pick up the phone in that way in the middle of the call? Because I wanted you to know that God, as we're talking about timing, the right phone call, the right relationship, the right reconnection, but also God is concerned about you and timing. That brother had been on my mind, on my spirit, and he just called. There's you shall be in the right place at the right time with the right people and have right outcomes in Jesus' name. Over to you, brother. Wow, I didn't.
Man. Yeah, that's interesting, right? And sometimes you have to have somebody next to you who tells you it's your time and you must go now and you must launch now, and who's prepping you. To circle back to Jalen Brunson, his dad, I would we were texting a little bit about, hey, are these calls from the ref? um, like are these correct? And what I noticed, and so sometimes the game is not looking at the game. You have to look off the board or to the sideline of the board to really see what's going on. And what I noticed, there was points where throughout the going back looking at clips and looking at his dad would tell him, stop complaining, suck it up, go still perform. And like sometimes he'll cover. So and he was like, oh my goodness. But that innate, because all the things that happen against the Knicks, and there's some things that happen for the Knicks as well. All things that happened against the Knicks, the fact that they kept up and they didn't let any of that break him was those conversations, I think, with the dad on the sidelines. Not when he was playing. When dad said, nope, you get over here, you stop complaining, you go figure it out. You still, I don't care about the hurdle, you still jump over it. Um, and it's important to have people in your corner. And it's important, let's say, for you who has caught the moment or see the moment approaching somebody else, to coach them up right so they shine.
Mm.
So they shine in their moment. So let's not forget that, and circle back to love your brother as you love yourself. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Help somebody achieve their moment as if you'd want to be helped to achieve your moment.
Brother, oh my gosh, I feel God so all over this. I was looking at something to your point. They were talking about capital and investments and how in the black and African American, the African community, it's you're going to get an investment and you want X, Y, and Z return on your investment, etc. And in Caucasian white communities and others, I'm investing in you. I'm investing in this is my nephew and I'm investing in his future. I don't even care what the idea. I'm investing in his future because I believe in him. This is my niece. This is someone in my community. I'm investing in you and your success. That's what you're describing, Achumburo. It's a shift. It's not an investment in another person from a looking at what can I get out of it, but because I believe in you, because I see you, because you might have a solution for the future that if we don't pour into you, it might never come forward. We have to start to see each other this way, see one another's children this way, see the young people in the community this way. That's how we're going to change the world. I just felt that so strongly. I see you and I see you enough to lend whatever I have to you.
Mhm. Yeah. Imagine if instead of looking at the kids on the corners in our communities, we say, okay, let me take them and let me give them a bite to eat. Let me start building a relationship with them as if they were my child. And if people started doing that, how would our neighborhoods change? How would these kids grow up? Will there be this divide between generations? Or do we start working together again?
Let me create a space for these young people because they probably just don't want to go inside of their houses. Right? Let us become empathetic to what's exactly what you're saying. Let us become empathetic and put ourselves in their position and say, you know what? There's so many people in my house right now. I just don't want to go inside. And if I had someplace else to go, and if I had a program to do, I'd do it and I'd go.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm. Wow.
And it's like I almost hear, brother, God is asking who would be willing to step up. Ooh, golly.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully he's calling you and you answer the call. Don't worry about how you're going to get the resources. Don't worry about how you're going to do it. Just answer the call. I will say I know Prophet has the prayer call that's coming up in a few minutes at 9. So I do want to be mindful of that. We're so thankful for everybody that's tuned in. We appreciate you. We hope we've poured into you. Please let us know what you'd like us to talk about in the next episode, what you enjoyed from this. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe and share the channel. Um, we're going to be posting some clips, put it up on your social media. And if God is calling you to help us out as well, cutting it up, putting in things we can react to, GIFs, images, so more people can enjoy it, right? We're more than happy for that. All right. Or if you know somebody, you saw the episode with Mama Cheney, and you think there's somebody in your community or your neighborhood we should interview and we should have on, let us know.
Yeah.
Thank you,
We
Prophet.
Yo, thank you, brother. We appreciate you. Well, if you'd like to join prayer, you can. Starts at 9 p.m. 848 230 8100. 848 230 8100. Passcode 4348153. Passcode 4348153. We're also having our Kenya public report this coming Saturday, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. East African time. You can register to join if you can't get on. If you register, we'll send you the video, hear from the delegates what happened, what's next. We're so excited. Thank you all for joining us, for being with us this evening. Thank you, brother. As always, I've enjoyed myself so much, and I love you.
I love you too, brother. God bless. God bless everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.
God bless
Take
everyone.
care.